The main menu of a game is an important initial environment before actually starting the gameplay. What is available in this main menu will vary depending on your game, but some common functionalities are general settings, save file handling, credits, and of course a start and a quit button. Considering this flexible nature of the main menu, it is important to keep things as decoupled and flexible as possible, to more easily adjust it to the needs of your game. Follow along as I show you how to set up a clean and decoupled main menu in Unreal Engine using Widget Switcher and Widget Blueprints, as I did for my indie game. Let's start with a quick overview of the architecture of what we are going to implement. If you want to jump straight to the implementation, skip to the next timestamp of this video. The core of this solution is Unreal Engine's Event Dispatcher. Event dispatchers are basically a way for a blueprint to broadcast a signal to other blueprints. For example, enemy died or button was clicked. It allows the blueprints to work more decoupled, since one blueprint will only receive and act over the signal and not access any internal logic of other blueprints. So for our main menu example, we will have only one level that will attach a root widget to the viewport. This root widget will have a widget switcher to enable the navigation between the different screens. In this example, we will have a credit screen and a settings screen, as well as the main menu buttons. Each one of those is a separate widget blueprint. The actual navigation will be handled by the root widget that contains the widget switcher. Therefore, all other blueprints will have event dispatchers attached to button click events to send the proper signal of what should happen. The root widget subscribes to all event dispatchers and implements callbacks to properly operate the widget switcher component, changing what is active on screen. With this architecture, we remain in one single level, reducing any unnecessary loading and unloading level overhead that could happen if each screen was a separate level. And we have continuity of elements that should be present on all screens, for example a moving background or the main menu music playing. Enough theory, let's start making this system. So we are here in Unreal Engine 5.6 and the first thing we need to do is create our level for our main menu. So we just go ahead, create a new level, call it level main menu. And here we are with the empty level, and what we gotta do now is create our root widget blueprint to be used as the root of our main menu. So you can go here to blueprints, create a new folder, call it UI to keep it organized. New folder, main menu. And here we're going to create a new user interface widget blueprint. User widget and call it widget blueprint root. Here we go, opening it up. So first I'm going to add here a size box, and this is just so that this menu adapts to ultra wide screen. If you want to know what to do here in more detail, there's a tutorial here in the channel explaining. That's it. Then we create a canvas. And inside of this canvas we can create a background image that will be the image that is displayed throughout all of our main menu. And then the most important part is to add a widget switcher. So here also expand it to make it fill all our canvas. And this widget switcher will be the component that will switch in and out the other widgets to make the transitions between the screens that we want to have here in our main menu. More on this here later on. And this is the basic setup that we need for our root blueprint. Another thing that we need to do is make it visible and available when we start the level. So we need to open the level blueprint here, and on begin play there's basically two things that we can do. First, we get the player controller and set the cursor to visible so that we can see the mouse. We set the show mouse cursor to true, since this is a UI and we want to see the mouse on the screen. And then also from the player controller, we set UI mode only. So now the next step is to add the widget to the screen. And this is the setup that we need to start seeing the blueprint when we play the level. Playing the game to test it out, we can see the blue background image from the root menu. That is what we have visible right now. And now we can create the widget blueprints that will be the screens of our main menu. Menu buttons. And now we can create the widget itself with the functionalities that we want. So following the example of the main menu of our main game, the menu buttons are aligned at the center and are the buttons that guide to the other screens, like the credit screen or the settings screen and so on. So let's build this here. So now we have our buttons set up, just changing the colors here so that we can differentiate them with more ease. So now we have created the menu buttons widget, and for this tutorial purpose we're just using the settings button and the credits button. And now let's go on and create the settings blueprint and the credits widget blueprint. So we need to create two more widget blueprints. And with the settings screen finished, we can copy it over and adjust the colors and some of the components, just for placeholder purpose. And now we have all of the widget blueprints that we need. The root one, the settings one, the credits one, and also the buttons one. And now we can connect everything. So if we go to our root widget blueprints, we have the widget switcher here, and we can add the other widgets that we created to be switched with this widget switcher. So we can open the content drawer, go to the blueprints, and drag and drop this here. So 1, 2, and 3. So those are references to the widgets that we want. And if we change the selection, we can see that it also changes here in our viewport. So this is the effect that we will have when we switch those widgets through the widget switcher. So now what we need to do is make all of those variables so that we can access those through the code. So this, this, and now here on our root widget, we switch the graph, and here in the event construct, we set the active widget so that every time that we open up this widget in our level, it opens with the correct widget active on the widget switcher. Well, just let me rename this here real quick. Here you go. And then we can get the widget switcher and set the active widget to be the menu buttons. And that's pretty much it. Now let's check if this worked. And here we have the buttons. Just a quick test, just to showcase that we can switch on those widgets. If we go here to the root, and instead of connecting to the menu buttons, we connect, for example, to the settings widget. Compile, save, and play the test. Here we have the other widget. So just let's go back to this one, delete. And here we have everything properly connected. And now we can start connecting all of this together through the event dispatcher, as mentioned in the architecture part of this video. So if we go, for example, here, starting from our menu buttons, we have 2 buttons, right? And those buttons have their events. So if we just let me close this here. So those buttons, first we need to set them as variables, because if we don't, we can't access them through code. So now that this is a variable, we have an unclicked event for it. So the settings button here, if we click this plus icon, we'll go to the graph view and we have the unclicked event. We can do the same thing here for the credits button. So scroll down, unclicked, plus icon, and we have the events. Now what we want to do is when we click the button, we want to trigger an event dispatcher so that we notify that the button was clicked. And this will be later on heard by the root menu that will switch the widget switcher accordingly. So here, going back to the menu buttons graph, what we need to do now is create the event dispatchers. So let's create one for the settings button, and a good practice is to start it with on. So on settings button clicked, and we can create another one on credits button clicked. So if you hold Ctrl, click here and drag, we can then click on call. And what we do is when this event is triggered by clicking the button, we call the on settings button click event dispatcher. Same thing for the credits button. So now our widget blueprint for the menu buttons is set up so that when we click the buttons, the proper event dispatchers are called. Now we need to do a similar thing to the other 2 screens. So this X button will close this screen and go back to the kind of main menu view of everything. So those buttons here will have a similar function to those here. So what we do is, for example here, starting with the settings one, we need to convert the button into a variable, scroll down, unclicked, create an event dispatcher, on settings button on settings, close button clicked. Again, hold Control, drag and drop, call and connect. Same thing here for the credits. Convert the button into a variable, unclicked, create event dispatcher, call it on credits, close button clicked, hold Control, drag and drop, call, connect, compile and save everything, and here we have it. So now all of the buttons that are settings, credits, the credits close, and the settings closed are linked to event dispatchers. So the next step is we go to the root widget blueprint, and here we'll have access to the event dispatchers inside of those widget blueprints here that are inside the widget switcher. So we are on the widget blueprint for the root. Inside the widget switcher, we have the reference to our widgets, the other ones. And here, for example, if we scroll down, we will have the on settings button click, on credits button click. We have these listed as events, but they are our custom event dispatchers. So here, if we go back to the graph, you'll see on settings button clicked, on credits button clicked, and here on the root, you'll have those events here. So just hit the plus icon, go back to the designer, hit the plus icon here as well. And here we can set up what happens when those events are triggered. So these events will be triggered inside of the individual widget blueprints, right? For example, the menu button, here we have the on-clicked event of this widget that is triggering our custom event dispatcher. And then in our root, we will listen to this event dispatcher and handle this event when it is triggered. So here is where the actual logic happens. So what we want to do when the setting button is clicked, we want the widget switcher to set active widget, and the active widget should be the settings widget. And when the credits button is clicked, we want the credits widget to be the active one. So just replace this here, connected, and done. So if we want to test it out, if we play it, we have the settings and credits. If we press settings, we open the settings screen. This doesn't do anything, not for right now. And if we press credits, we open the credit screen. Also not implemented to do anything. So what's left is here in the root, we also want to handle the credits button and the settings button. Okay, so going back to the root, to the designer view, if we are here on the settings screen, we have the on settings close button clicked event. Going back to the designer for the credits, on credits close button clicked. So we have both events that will be going to having a similar behavior, right? And the behavior is that we want them to switch back to the menu buttons screen. That is the actual start of the main menu, right? So we go here and connect, and we can reuse this and connect both into the same logic. Now we compile and save, and we can test everything out. So settings, press settings, close, we go back, credits, we see here the credit screen, and closing, we also go back. And this is how we created our main menu system for our indie game. The game has a free demo available on Steam. It will really mean a lot if you could check it out and wishlist it. And that's it for this tutorial. Thank you for your time and patience. Hope it was useful and you could learn something. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.